Hello, gang, and welcome to another week of the Rec Poker Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Reed, Bluffsterini in the home game. And if you want to learn more about me, you can go to rec.poker/crew. And you can also learn about all the other wizards on the Wrecking crew. In fact, wizards, why don't you introduce yourselves right now? Just tell Rec Poker Nation all about you.
I'm Chris Jones. I'm 5x5 on PokerStars and Twitter.
And I'm John Somsky. I am Poker Geek MN everywhere.
I'm Kim Kilroy. I am Fergie56 in the home game and Pat Vet everywhere else.
And like I said, I'm Jim. I'm happy to be here. I've got the best job in the world, hanging out with fine folks like this and talking about poker every week. And every week we are playing against each other in the nightly Rec Poker home game, trying to duke it out and get one level closer to that beautiful silver pin I'm sporting on my hat right there. And just like every week, we are going to take a post from the Rec Poker forums and talk about it here on the show. So this week, we are looking at a post by my buddy, Michael, who goes by Les Paul 99. He's a guitar fan. And he was joining me on Wednesday night for our online review and hang with a few other premium members here at Rec Poker. So regular listeners will know every month, the winners from our home games get together and play in a tournament of champions. And every month we record the final table of that tournament of champions, because this is a spot where really the cream has risen to the top. And we, later in the month, we take the video of that final play. We all get together, whether you're a premium member or not. If you're on the final table, you're welcome to join. And we discuss the action. We discuss the hand street by street. We try and remember what hands we had. Some people probably used Poker Tracker, or like my friend Michael here is using his QuickTime player to record the action. And it's a great way for us to kind of review our own play together in this high pressure situation of the Tournament of Champions final table. So Michael has posted here a hand that came up in the online review and hang. So just to paint the picture here, we're four-handed, and the stacks are pretty close. There's Les Paul, Gloves 1010, Fergie 56, and Keck Geek 65. And Les Paul, Gloves, and Fergie all have between 35 and 39,000 chips, and Keck Geek 65 has about 14,000. So the Somsky ratio is at about 2.5, but most of the people have around the same stack, and there's just that one short stack, and they're not desperate at this point either. So I'm not sure the Somsky ratio will be too much of a factor in this particular layout. So what we get here is Michael opens from early position, as early position as you can be four-handed. So he's under the gun, but he's also on the cutoff. Yeah, exactly. And that's the way people should be thinking about this, is you're in the cutoff. And he opens. And are we saying his hand here, Kim, or are we revealing? All right, so we'll start this hand from Michael's perspective. He's got the King of Hearts, 9 of Hearts. So I think that's an uncontroversial open, four-handed, and raises to 2.25 big blinds, which I think is a fine sizing for all this. And how does the action go here? So Keck Geek folds.
No.
The order's not right. I see. Yes.
He raises in the cutoff. We're only four-handed.
Yeah.
I'm on the button. I call. We all have, 3 of us have around 50 big blinds, and there's one player with about 20 big blinds, the small blind. So this is a winner-take-all tournament, but just so you know, nobody's a huge tip leader or anything in this. So the cutoff raises, and I flat on the button.
Thank you. Perfect. And then the small blind folds, and Gloves 1010, who's our friend Colin Anderson, makes a 3-bet out of the big blind, and actions on Michael with King 9 of Hearts. And he says in the comment, and I do encourage everyone, go to the Rec.Poker forums and review this post yourself, because he's put some screenshots in here that help illustrate some points. Other people have put some great information here. I see Keck Geek and Lefty and a couple other folks like Kim have also posted a bunch of information here. we'll do our best to go through it on the show, but you can get a lot more detail from just going and checking out the forum post. So Michael says that he felt like this was near the bottom of his calling range, but he was getting good odds. And with a hand like this, if he calls and Fergie's going to call behind, she's more likely to do so because she's going to be getting excellent odds as well. So we can talk about whether we think that's true or a good idea, or if King 9 suited's the kind of hand that we want to have for that or not. As it happens, I think Michael makes the call here, and Kim does end up calling in position. So we get to the flop 3 ways. It's a 3-bet pot. Flop comes 8 of clubs, 9 of diamonds, 7 of diamonds. So it's an interesting board. It's an interesting situation because when you're 4-handed, I think people's ranges start to open up a bit. And so this isn't, and the sort of, you would say that this is kind of like a big blind flop, but the big blind's actually the 3-better here. So we kind of have to recalibrate our ranges a bit when we think about who this flop favors. Right off the bat, do you guys have a take? Like who owns this flop given the action? Or are we sharing this flop? 8 of clubs, 9 of diamonds, 7 of diamonds.
Well, I think that I think that the initial raiser and the button, which is me, have all of the sets. We have all of the 10 jacks suited, although that's only 2, maybe that's only 3 combos. I don't think we probably have 5-6 suited. I don't think we have a lot of 2 pairs because we probably wouldn't be calling the 3-bet with that, even though I think the 3-bet was a little small. I think the 3-bet should have been a little bit bigger, seen as he's out of position against 2 players. But, that's neither here nor there. So the 3-better has all of the overpairs, of course, in their range. So, we both the initial raiser and myself on the button have all of the nut combos. Yeah. Where I don't think that the 3-better has any of the nut combos.
Yeah, I agree.
But they have all the overpairs.
I agree, and I think that you in particular probably do have a bunch of those 2-pair combos because I think when the small 3-bet gets called by Michael, you're going to be getting really, really good odds to come along with your own 8-9 or 7-8 on the button in a spot like that. Do you think ranging
maybe,
yourself?
But that's only 2 combos, hearts and spades. So
right.
That's a very small portion of my range.
Good point. Okay,
now
so John.
You said that the 3-better doesn't have the nuts, but the 3-better could still have sets, couldn't they?
Yeah, but the nuts is 10 jack.
Yes, I understand that, and I don't think they have that, but they still could have some strong hands.
Yes.
So you have the nuts advantage, but they still have some strong hands with that flop.
I would have 10 jack here. I would have 10 jack.
Yeah, you're 3-betting 10 jack there.
Yeah, well, 10 jack suited, I'm 3-betting a lot.
Yeah,
and it's especially 2 callers. So I would, but maybe not everyone would, but I definitely would. Also,
I think most people would. Yeah,
it's a 4x.
Sorry.
It's a 4x 3-bet. Is how big would you? That doesn't seem that small.
It's not. It's not a 4x 3-bet. He only made it. I think that
1575 to 6300 is what I saw.
Oh, maybe.
Oh, yeah, that is actually
2 1/4. Maybe. Yeah. Okay. 5.
Yeah, so that does make it. So that does make it fewer of those ones. Good call, Chris. So I think we're right that the 3-better call-in has more overpairs, and then both of the callers have lot of the hands that are going to make either straights or sets or two pairs or pair plus draw kind of hands here. I think that's right.
Yeah, and I would agree that it's very hard. I mean, they're going to have more Jack 10 for sure. Like,
Yeah.
it's not that common of a 3-bet, and I think most people would only do it with the suited variety. So,
Me too. Yeah, me too. Okay.
4 combos.
yeah,
4 combos.
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. So on a board like this, I think it's a good idea for Colin to check with his entire range out of the big blind as a 3-better, and he does. And then we have Michael, who's the original raiser, King 9 of hearts. So they've got top pair, second kicker, no flush draw, no real redraw at all. And it's a question for him whether to c-bet or not. So does anyone, again, the ranges are kind of weird here, aren't they? It's not a typical spot. Like, I would say this isn't and I guess it isn't really a c-bet anymore, is it? Because of the action pre-flop. Now it's just a question of him taking the lead again if he wants to, because he called the 3-bet. It is the kind
Once
of
he gets checked to.
once he gets checked to.
Once he
Yeah,
gets
exactly.
checked to,
Yeah. And it is a good board for that. And he does have a hand that benefits from protection. So this feels like a pretty natural bet for me, given the action. Does anyone want to advocate for a check or a different action?
No, I mean, he has King 9, right?
Yeah, King
King 9
9.
of hearts. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like the bet here. I think the bet has to be fairly big versus 2 players. He makes it a half pot, which I would probably go 2/3 pot in this spot, but that's small potatoes.
And is that a range play, Kim, just because the board's so dynamic, you want to bet bigger with your entire holdings?
What's he betting here? Is he betting
Right.
and calling a jam? Or is he, so what's he betting here? He's betting his strong draws, and he's betting his 9s and 10s and jacks. And he probably doesn't have queens.
Right. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So, and he's betting his sets. So he's not betting, and then he's betting his strong draws, his diamond draws, his straight draws, straight flush combo draws. So I think with all of that range, I think you probably want to go versus into 2 opponents. I think you probably want to go 2/3 pot and willing to, and with anything you're going to bet here, you're probably willing to call it off if you get jammed on.
Yeah, I think this is the kind of spot where, even your bluffs should have a lot of equity if you're choosing to put them in a betting range. And so you can always just check. But I would encourage some people, they make this sort of compromise where they want to make a smaller bet with certain hands. And I think they're better off just checking with those hands if they don't want to make a bigger bet here. Chris, do you have a take on that?
I agree with pretty much everything Kim said, except the calling it off piece. I think I'm making that big bet with the intention of some of those hands. And this is a really good candidate, the one we're holding, to potentially let go of it. If somebody wakes up and jams now, I don't like my hand much.
Now there are going to be a lot of
I guess could agree with that.
And I guess Chris, you're saying that even the hands that we're ahead of, the hands that people are going to include in a raising range here, we're not going to have great equity against by the time we get all the way to the river, right? Because they're going to have a lot of equity against.
I mean, this was a 3-way 3-bet pot, so ranges are already pretty strong. And if we make a big bet here, which I like the 2/3 pot bet, and I think we make that bet with the intention of putting our opponents to the test, trying to get folds with our 9x holdings, but then potentially having some of those hands like the nuts and like the combo draws, which we're just happy, or sets where we're just happy to just snap call it off too.
Yeah, that's the sizing I'm going to use for my sets and straights here for sure. And so that's the same sizing I want to use for my flush draws and the pans like this that we're including in this betting range, even though they're not a great hand. I think they still benefit from being in this range, and so we should use the same size.
The trickiest thing is going to be what happens, right? When we get called, how do we proceed? Which we're obviously going to talk about. But
well, let's jump on that segue. So Kim does call in position with a mystery hand, and call-in folds out of the big blind. So that's a 3-bet with what we figure is a couple overcards. Ace King is a pretty easy pick there, as we were talking about before we started recording. And so we end up with Michael and Kim going to the turn. The turn is the King of Diamonds. So we've got 8 of clubs, 9 of diamonds, 7 of diamonds, King of Diamonds. Giving Michael 2 pair. And so from Michael's perspective, the turn was a King of Diamonds giving me top 2 pair, and now the board has 4 diamonds and 3 to a straight. Very scary. I was first to act, and I thought about what Fergie 56's range was. I thought she might have a combo draw like ace 10 of diamonds or queen 10 of diamonds, but I think she may have raised my turn bet. During our discussion Wednesday, most agreed that she most likely had ace of hearts, 10 of hearts, or ace of clubs, 10 of clubs. I remember there was a lot of talk about being like an ace 10 suited kind of a hand, which would have that kind of draw. Although if I know Kim, I'm not sure she wouldn't be raising with some of those. So what ends up happening, Michael shoves. So the turn comes the King of Diamonds, and Michael shoves his top 2 pair, and Fergie folds. And this is one of the reasons the panel asked Michael to post the hand, to figure out what did Fergie have. And then there's some other great notes in here. Maybe we can get into that later. People talk about ace 10, ace 9, lefties in there with ace 7, ace 8, ace 9. There's a lot of people putting you on these pair plus draw kind of hands, Kim. And we get a great post from Jacob Kiki responding to this, going in some great detail about the different streets, how our range is affected by it, and basically figures it's an ugly spot. And he was in the hand as well, of course. So he's a good sport here, saying fun playing you heads up and can't wait to play you again soon. So what is everyone thinking here? When the King of Diamonds comes, it's 4 diamonds on the board.
3.
Sorry, it's 3. Yeah, it's 3 diamonds on the board. Sorry, correct. And 3 to the straight. So what are we thinking? What are we thinking about Michael's spot, and what do we want to do with our range and with our hand?
I like his shove here. I mean, we've got like a maybe 60% pot size shove back. I like his shove.
Yeah.
I mean, it's putting all of the draws to in a cage, and it's he's protecting his equity that he's already got. So
yeah, I think I might.
And if he gets called by a flush, he still has outs. So
yeah, one of the nice things about 2 pair in that situation. And just in case I confuse some of our listeners, this is on the turn. So there's the 3 straight and the 3 flush on the turn. But there still is a card to come. Yeah, Chris, what do you think about what our range is in that spot? Or I know you said you liked the flop bet as well. Is this a spot where we have to kind of follow through just because of the
I mean, obviously we want a king that's not the diamond. That would be better. But I think certainly Kim should have some flushes now. So we're going to lose to some of them, but there aren't that many that might not have raised the flop. So yeah, I'm going to get it in, and if you've got the flush, congratulations, but we beat pretty much everything else at this point. So I'm trying to think of I think we want to there's going to be a lot of hands that are still on draws right now, and we do not want to see a river if we can avoid it.
And our hand actually has some interesting properties against the different parts of Kim's range that she might have, because we're beating all the one pair hands. We're not even afraid of our opponent turning a better two pair, really. And a lot of the hands that we're putting Fergie on here are the kind of one pair plus draw hands, and we're beating all the pairs, and we even have a redraw to boat up on the river. So we have a lot of ways to win the hand against different parts of Fergie's range. So I like that. I like that quality better as well. What were you thinking, Kim, in real time? What were you thinking? What were you thinking when for his range?
I butchered this hand.
Yeah, you said I wasn't. You said in the chat that you feel like you butchered this hand. So
I'm so intrigued about what you have, because you keep so like I'm trying. So I think I'm influenced by what you're saying, but I have a guess at this point, but only by the fact that you said you butchered it.
Yeah. Well, why don't you guess, Chris, just for fun, and then we can get Kim's perspective.
I can tell you what I think I should have done in each street.
Oh, okay, yeah, and then we'll guess.
Tell us what you think you should have done, and then maybe that'll help us narrow it down. I am writing down what I think.
I can't really tell you that without telling you what I had. But okay. So I think that when Gloves 1010, who's a fairly good aggressive player, 3 bets here. I have the type, and that the razor Michael just calls. It caps his range. And I think that with my particular hand, it's a good hand to just back shove with my specific hand.
Cool.
Ace queen.
No. I block that ace queen blocks all of Gloves of all his 3 bets. So I have a small pocket pair.
Interesting.
And I have a diamond.
Oh, so you did have a pair plus draw. Just not the way we thought.
I have pocket 6s.
Oh,
with a 6 of diamonds.
Yep. So you had the bottom. You had the bottom end of it. So those ace 10 with 1 diamond guesses were in the right neighborhood, but they were on the wrong block.
I think that this hand is a hand that is, people don't utilize this enough, and I think you can back all in this hand. You can back raise this all in, and put a ton of pressure on every hand that isn't ace king. Obviously, you're going to get called by a lot of over pairs, but not over. I mean, 9s are going to think about it. 8s are going to think about it. 10s are going to think about it. So, and you're flipping here for chip lead on a winner take all tournament where there's no ICM involved yet, really, with a small pocket pair. So I think with these stack sizes, this is a really good hand to back raise shove when the initial raiser shows weakness, or a capped range rather, not weakness, but a capped range, by just calling the 3 bet.
I love that. So I don't think we have enough of these sort of like cold reopen the betting raise spots on the episodes. So I love getting a look at that.
However, I didn't. I just called because I was getting all of those great pot odds, and I think that if Michael had folded, I would have folded. here. Because really with these stack sizes, I'm not getting the odds to set mine. That's why I prefer the shove with pocket sixes, pocket fives, like that sort of a
definitely
hand.
Pocket fives. Yeah, for sure.
So as played, I just call and we get the 8, 9, 7 flops or open-ended with a backdoor flush draw and a backdoor straight flush draw. And I think this is probably a good candidate to when the initial 3-better checks and Michael bets. I think this shows that he has exactly what he has, like a pair or, probably just a pair. So I think this is a good spot to also raise here. I don't think that I called in the moment, but I think that's the worst play of that specific play here is the worst one of my whole play of this hand. It was the worst butcher that I could have. And I think it's like regressing to be a passive player, which I used to be, and not to be the type of player that I want to be, or that I would like to see myself as now. And I just reverted back to, oh my God, I don't know what to do here. I have such a good draw, but I only have this little pair, and I just want to call. And I like the call if we were 200 big blinds deep, but we're not.
Yep.
We're short here, and I want to realize my equity here. And I think this is a spot where I should either fold or shove on the turn. So
and it's interesting because I remember in the conversation in the online review and hang, we definitely thought that you would be raising a lot of those kinds of hands on the flop. But I was thinking about it being like the top. I was thinking about it being the top of the straight, or I wasn't thinking about exactly that combo. But it's a good example of how you can have it in that range. And I think you're right about that calling as a compromise thing, right? That we kind of find tempting from time to time, but usually it's the wrong decision. Usually we should be folding or raising instead.
Right. We just fall back on the call hoping we'll hit.
Yeah.
The odds are we're not going to hit.
Yep.
So we need to push that equity and try and make hands fold.
Yeah.
He would have had a hard time, like you said, calling the top pair, second best kicker here on the flop.
Yeah. No.
If I shove.
Yeah.
Right. And if he does call, I have draws. So as played, I did just call like a little wimp. And and then the turn comes the king of diamonds, which now gives me the flush draw as well as the open-ended straight draw. Right. And he shoves, and unless I put him on a better flush draw, I have the odds here to call off my stack. I shouldn't fold. But if I put him on a better flush draw, like having possibly a better flush draw than me, then plus a pair, then the fold is a good fold. So it depends what I'm.
Yeah, and that's going to be hard for you to figure out in real time too.
Right. I just think that I misplayed every street of this hand.
Let's see if Jonathan Little has any advice on how we can play that hand better next time, and then we'll come right on back.
Have you ever wondered whether you should call a preflop raise or 3-bet instead?
It's like he's talking.
What do you do when you have a flush draw? Do you raise it or do you just call? What do you do with ace-king when you miss the flop? Are you tired of guessing about what the right play is with your particular hand? Well, my name is Jonathan Little, and I am a 2-time World Poker Tour champion and creator of PokerCoaching.com, where we offer over 1,000 interactive hand quizzes where you play a hand and then get real-time feedback from our world-class pros. Don't guess and don't stress. Just register for your free account at PokerCoaching.com/recpoker right now.
I hope Jonathan Little knows how much fun we have while his ad is playing. I get a kick out of that every single time. And not just because I am hosting a podcast that's sponsored by Jonathan Little, but life's pretty cool around here sometimes. All right. So Kim's decided that she's butchered the hand in every possible way, but she's come here to talk about it like a pro. That's why she's on the wrecking crew, because she comes to bring the heat. And I think I think Michael really played this pretty. If you knew what hand you had, you'd have to say he kind of put you in jail on the turn there with that sizing. And I think it's interesting. What I think you make a great point, Kim. When he makes that 60% bet on the turn, you have a lot of equity in there. And how do you in real time decide, this part of his range has a diamond in it and this part of his range doesn't? And I know it's just counting combos but I just imagine in the moment, the clock's ticking. Yeah. How do you make that decision?
I think that this decision was for my tournament life, so it made it a fold. But we were 100 big blinds deep still. Then I have to sit and think about it a little longer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Well, good spot. Good spot. I'm glad.
For me, I found I liked your analysis, Kim. I found it very useful. I remember back in 2005, 2006 when I was playing, my style was pretty much unbridled aggression, which actually worked back then. And then had to figure out, pretty soon unbridled aggression no longer worked. You just ended up spewing chips because people caught on to that.
Such a bummer.
So then I had to tighten up.
Such a bummer. Ugh.
Yeah. Then I had to learn how to tighten up. But now I struggle with where do I find those spots to add the aggression back in? So I like your thought process. Helps me with that type of stuff. So thanks.
Yeah, this was a good one. All right, gang.
Easy in retrospect.
Yeah, it's always easy in retrospect. I was saying this, I think Kim was in our study group last week or something. I was saying, I'm just such a better poker player when I'm not playing poker. It's so much easier when I'm wearing the coaching hat. It's just easier. And when you know what everyone's cards are, so there's something that just makes it easier. I don't know what it is. Maybe we'll figure that out one of these days. But in the meantime, I'd like to thank Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack, and Casino, Website AMP, Les Paul, Pet Vet, Chris Jones, John Somsky, Tech Geek 65. Okay, good night, everybody. See you again soon.